That window's been blocked off for a good 7 years, pretty much since we moved in here. That window leaked really bad. I don't mean just leaked air. There was water just was pouring in that window. It was completely flashed poorly or something. I don't know what was going on the outside. Anyway, I ended up jamming this piece of foam that I cut to fit in that window opening. I cut it to fit real tight, and that has sealed it off. There's no draft over here or anything. Water hasn't come in since I did that, but this window just needs to get removed and a proper wall put in across that. So that's a project that's up for today. I've only been procrastinating this one for 6 or 7 years, so it's about time I get to it. Let's do the title intro, and then I'll show you what the deal is outside, which is why I've been procrastinating this one for so long. You're watching On the Mark with Mark. The reason I'm procrastinating it is because the window is under this deck. So it doesn't really help too much as far as letting light into the shop, because all you can see out of there is under the deck, and there's lattice around the outside of the deck, so it doesn't really let in any light. And I never open any basement windows, so it doesn't let air in either. But this is what I'm going to have to do, and I don't know how many times I'm going to have to crawl in and out of here. There's a little opening right here that lets me get underneath here for service work, kind of like this. So here we go. Let's go take a look. I'll show you what this thing looks like underneath here. Well, this is where I'm going to be working today, part of the time. Some from in the basement and some from out here. Now, my plan is I'm going to leave that foam in there so I don't just have this open throughout the day, making the house cold. Although for November in Iowa, this is a pretty nice day. It's 48 degrees today, so I don't think I'll work up a sweat on this project, but there is a lot of work to be done here. I think this will probably take me most of the day. So that's one time crawling underneath of here. Let's take a look at this window. I'll show you what's going on here. Water has been flowing in right across the top of this window. And actually, I didn't realize this was as bad as it is. Let me get my hand on this. Ugh. Well, that was easy. Oh my gosh. Oh. Well, demolition's looking like it's going to be pretty easy on this job. Wow. This is really rotten out. Here's the whole window. Well, the aluminum looks good, but boy, the wood. Oh, it's an awning type window. Well, I guess the glass is still good here. We got to get this out of here. Okay, this is not the foam that we were looking at on the inside. I put 2 layers of foam on this window. One of them just fit in the window frame, and the other one fit in kind of the rough opening that was showing on the inside. So there's 2 layers of this. So I should be able to pull this out. There we go. See that? So I had 2 layers of, it looks like 1.5 inch foam that I had put in here just to kind of insulate it a little bit better. In fact, I think I'm going to try to reuse that foam in this wall. I'm just going to build a wall across here. It's not going to be a window anymore. All right, I need to get some tools, probably a pry bar and a hammer, and tear out what's here. And oh my gosh, and I need to come up with a plan. I've got all my demolition finished here. So you can see I've got all of the window tore out, and I'm down to just the rough framing of the opening as it was actually poured in concrete. With the exception of this bottom plate here, that was mostly rotted away. I've carved off as much of it as I could. That was just soft. And I'm gonna leave the part that is still good, that's showing through on the inside. I'm gonna leave that there. I'm gonna seal that up with some caulk real good before I put a new piece of pressure treated down against that concrete here on the outside. And then I'm gonna reuse this rough framing. That's gonna be a part of my wall. So that stays. So all I need to do is put some studs on 16-inch centers after I get the new pressure treated plate put in the bottom, and then I'll put my sheathing here on the outside, and then I'll be ready to do a little bit of siding here under the deck. This black stuff is the same stuff, just a different color. I was using it on a different project. All right, let's see if I can get it in there without squishing it all over the place. All right, that looks good. Let's get a few screws in. Okay, the sill plate's on. My piece of foam is underneath there, and it's good and caulked under there, so water shouldn't come in that way, or hopefully no insects. So now I just need to measure for my studs, and I think I'll toenail those in, and then I'll be ready for the sheathing on the outside. So I just need to take a few measurements. It's 1/4 of an inch taller on this end than it is on this end. Not my doing, but that's what I have to live with. I've got my studs cut. Now I'm just going to toenail these in here. Then I'll be ready for sheathing. Okay, those are in good. Now I got something to put my sheathing on. Well, it's actually starting to get dark out now, so we're running a little late here. I never did make a schedule, and I took a long lunch. And here we are. Here's what I've got. This piece doesn't fit. Does it fit? And it. So let's get this guy nailed up. I had a hammer.
My tools are getting buried in the sand here, so this is kind of a new thing to have to deal with. I lost my pencil twice now, so that's nice. Okay. All right, I'm just using roofing nails on this. Okay. I really needed that light. I got the rest of the sheathing nailed up, and now I have put my house wrap on so I can start doing the siding. And what I have is some old siding that is what the original siding was on our house, but the stuff is brand new. It's been in the box in our garage since '88. So since this is under the deck there, and I just want this protected from the rain, I don't care if it doesn't match, nobody ever sees this. So that's what's going to get put in down here. It's kind of a blue color. There it is. Here's the next thing that's going to slow me down. This is for a vent I'm going to put through this window here, what used to be a window, now a wall, so I can have an exhaust hood in my shop for when I'm spray painting or doing other things where I'd like the smell to go outside. So this needs to fit on here in some way. There's a stud right there, so probably over here. And what I'd like is for there to be a stud running, or a 2x4 running across between these two studs here, so that this has some decent stuff to nail to. All right, so that this, I can have something to nail into besides just this lame sheathing. And you know, I guess I'll use one side for the 2x4, and then I'll run a 2x4 across here and across here, and then a little one in between. So this is going to get boxed in so that there's a vein on the outside where the exhaust will happen. So we have to locate that. This is how it has looked down here for about 7 years. I have this stuck in there really tight. I mean, it's a good airtight seal. So I haven't felt any drafts by this, and no water has come through since I put that up there. But I also haven't had it out of there. So this is the first time I've pulled this out since I put it in. Now, I mentioned the things that are going to be happening. This is the vent that's going to go on the outside. And then this is the hood right here that I'm going to use. This has got a light in it and a fan. I may be upgrading this fan. I haven't decided yet. To start with, I'm going to use it. I know there's some issues with that. But anyway, this is going to get hung right up here. And that's going to be my spray paint area. A lot of times I'm spray painting small things. I do some model railroading, but a lot of times when I'm spray painting something, it's really not very big. And in the winter time, I don't spray paint outside. Sometimes I'll paint out in the garage, but then you got to bring it down quick, and it's still outgassing and stinks up pretty good. So this is going to give me a place to set things and actually paint things where the fumes are just going to get immediately evacuated outside. So I'm going to pull that off there, and we'll see the back side of the work we just did. There we go. I told you it was tight. This is just as I opened it, so dirty, needs a little cleanup here. But you can see the wood, that is good. Boy, we really split that one. All right, and then I put the nails in right here, here, and here, where I want to put that, I don't know what you call that, a sconce on the outside. So now I know where to put my 2x4s. So I'm gonna clean this up. Man, I just missed those nails, look at that. Well, I can't get to it now. That's the way it is. Same with those nails there and there. Probably, yeah, I could tell how I was missing them. Boy, that's really not held on by much. There's also not a lot of pressure in this area. This is under the deck. I have a small frame in there now. So that's where that sconce is going to get attached on the outside. Now I have pushed the nails back before I put those 2x4s in, so I just need to drive them back and I'll be in business here. Looks like 2 more pieces of siding and we're buttoned up here. Okay, 1 more piece. It's just a thin one. It needs to get ripped the long way. So I'm gonna run down to the shop and cut that on the table saw. Last piece. This, I could have put the finish strip on the top of it, but since this is under here, look, this goes right under the siding for the house. So like the feathers of a duck, anything running down here will just run right off. So all I'm gonna do here is, since this is under the deck, I'm just gonna face nail this and that'll stay up and we should be watertight. There we go. A wall. And that vent will screw on right there. And that is nice and neat. There, we're buttoned up. Beautiful. Now we got to go work on the inside. This is how it looks in the light of day. I don't have the vent installed yet, but all the siding is finished. Part of the problem with the water running in that window a few years ago was we had that box there, right over here. It was right over top of the window. And the water that landed on top of that was running off of the back side. So by moving that down, that helped alleviate that problem. But now she's sealed up good. Now that I'm finished out there, I need to insulate this wall and then I'm going to cover this with a sheet of plywood. So I have this foam here and I'm going to cut it into pieces that fit in between all of these studs here. And that should be some pretty good insulation. This is 2 inches thick. It's R10, 2-inch thick. So let's put this up and see how it looks. Okay. These last 2 are going to get put in after I shoot some foam down into that corner and that corner. You can see where it had things had kind of rotted out before. Also need to get some foam down there too, along that edge. We'll get that all sealed up. So here we go. I think that's sealed up pretty good. Same with over there. I've put 2 layers of the 2-inch foam in here. So this is out to 4 inches, but of course the 2x4s are only 3.5 inches. So there's a gap there, and I'm going to claim that I left that gap there intentionally to form an air gap so that I get less thermal bridging through the studs. Pretty clever, huh? The last thing I have to do is put up this. This is the piece of foam that was up here before. That's going to go on, and it's going to be able to push up and go right up against this. So it'll be set back a little bit, and then that'll give me room to put my sheet of plywood over this. That's going to protect this here. But before I do that, I need to get this hole cut in here, and I need to get my duct for my exhaust fan that I want to put in here. I need to get that put in here, and then of course then I'll have a hole in this. And also I'm going to shoot that with foam before I put this in. And also I'm going to shoot that there's a little channel down here at the bottom that is kind of rough. In fact, it's some of the rotten wood from this piece from the outside too, where it was very irregular, but I'll be able to fill that with foam, so that'll get filled up beautiful. My hole saw won't reach the foam in there. So what I'm going to do, I've got the foam propped up inside. I'm just going to push this in. Till it touches. Okay, I'm pushing. There we go. Now that should have marked the foam on the inside, and now I can hit it with the hole saw. And there we have it. All right, let's cut that out. There we go. And a nice hole, probably in the right place. Hopefully this is the last time I have to crawl under here. So I just need to push this in and screw it down. We'll see how this goes. I'm gonna put some silicone on it. This might not be pretty. Let's see how it goes. Okay, back to the inside.
Okay, I got my chunk of foam here. And I got my spray foam here. So let's see how this goes. Okay, now I know I don't want to fill this all the way full because this stuff will keep expanding for like an hour. And that's where you can get in trouble. So I'm filling it about 3/4 full. We'll see what happens there. And then I'm going to shoot down in that channel area. Now, because that foam continues to move for quite some time, I'm going to hold it in place with this board. That one kind of missed. Okay, and then these are here to keep that foam that's around this duct, keeping it tight. And this one's here for the foam I stuck down in the channel. That ought to do. That is one heavily insulated wall. The little door on the outside is closed right now, so I'm not feeling any kind of draft, though. That's kind of a weak point there.
I have this nice sheet of salvaged 3/4 inch plywood that's got some holes in it, but that's not really going to matter for what I'm doing here. I can fill those holes or not, doesn't really make any difference. I have applied one coat of sanding sealer to both sides of this. Part of this is going to be used in a different project, so I'm using the side that's a little more on the cruddy side, which is just fine. A little bit of firewood. this piece of plywood's going to work out just fine for my interior cover on that window. But I still need to match up that hole where my exhaust vent is going to go out. And I've taken some measurements, and it's 4 3/8 down from the top to the edge, and it's 9 1/8 over from the side to the edge of the duct. So let me show you what I've done. I've cut 2 pieces of plywood that are those same dimensions to here and to here. So now I'll be able to box in my hole saw so that it cuts the hole hopefully in the right place. Now you can see how I got it boxed into a corner right here. So I should be able to run this saw into this corner without it skating all over. Because I had to take the center drill bit out because it held up the saw above my blocks here. So this might be tricky. I'm going to have to go at it easy to start with. You know, that's not a bad idea. I'm going to go backwards at first. Okay, I got a decent groove started around here. I'm going to go in forward instead of reverse now. I've got a piece of scrap plywood underneath it here, so I'm not going to be punching a circle into my workbench underneath it here, so that's covered. So here we go. We're through. It is warm. Wow. Okay, there's our hole. Wonder how close we got to getting it in the right place. Let's take a look. I have not test fit this off camera, and I still need to trim some of this foam, expanding foam that I stuck in around corners here to seal up any drafts that I had. So I'm just putting it in to see if the hole is in the right place. That looks like no. It's just caught on the grain a little bit. It is started. Let's go this way. Let's try getting the bottom in first. There we go. Okay, a little bit of a gap there. Okay, it goes in down here, but this thing isn't square, so I'm getting a little bit of interference up there. And that would have worked out had the hole been a little bit that way, so then the panel could have been over a little more, because I've got about 1/8 of an inch gap right there, so close enough that I can work with it. That will get filled with some silicone after I permanently mount it in here. So I'm going to trim off 1/16 of an inch off of this side. Maybe a little bit off the bottom too. There we go. Nice tight seal. I'm just going to nick off the sanding sealer that I put on here before. If there's any little spots of dust or anything that might have got in that sanding sealer, now I'm going to just smooth those out, and then the sanding sealer will hold the grain in place so it won't raise again when I put my next coat of paint on. I've got 2 coats of paint on my plywood now. Here's the thing. And believe it or not, I let this sit overnight. And when I came down here in the morning, I mean, it had been painted for 8 hours. It was still wet. So I propped it up and I put a little space heater blowing on it. So I figured a little heat would help it to dry a little faster. And it was still so wet after 8 hours that there's several places where the paint just sagged on this thing. So it looks, it's not a great paint job, but it'll be fine. I'm not going to worry about it. I actually, this has been 3 days now, and I don't think I could sand it off yet. It's still that soft. It was some old paint. And I guess that's what I get. Also, I had gone through and filled in a few of the holes with some wood putty and then sanded it off quick. And I only gave the putty, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes to set up, and then I painted over it. And that stuff is also kind of bleeding through on the paint. So big swing and a miss on the paint, but that's going to be fine here. This is also going to get that hood mounted in front of it, so not a lot of it will really be showing. But I'm down to getting this thing screwed onto the wall and then caulk around the edges. And this is finished. These screws might seem crazy long, but you got to remember I've got 2 inches of foam on this side of the studs, plus the studs were a 1/2 inch back, so I've got to go 2.5 inches before I even get to the studs. So these screws needed to be pretty long. I just gotta get it back in here again. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's see if I got my screws in the right place. Yep. Yep. There we go. There we go. That is in. Well, that's it for this one. We got the whole outside sheathed, and we got the siding on it, and I've got 3 layers of that foam insulation squeezed in between the studs there, which was R10 on the pink insulation. I think the white stuff has a little bit lower R value, so 3 layers, 30. Let's say an R25 wall. That's not bad for a wall here. That's all screwed on there nice and tight. I got my port for my exhaust hood that I intend on building next. That'll be the next video. I got that all set up. So thanks for sticking with me to the end. That finishes it up for this project. If you got a basement window, maybe you saw some ideas on how I did it here. Hopefully you don't have a window well, because those aren't as fun. You got to lay on your stomach a lot to do those. I did one in glass block at our old house, and I was able to do most of it from the basement side, so it wasn't so bad. So if you've got that to deal with, maybe don't dread it as much as I did. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, I would appreciate it if you'd subscribe. Like this video if you got one idea that made you think this is something you could tackle at home. I would appreciate that too. That also helps me out. Thanks for staying to the end. Good. That'll do.